This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not an offer or solicitation of an offer to buy or sell securities. SNN Network, SNN Inc., and the Planet MicroCap Podcast and the representatives are not licensed brokers, broker-dealers, market makers, investment bankers, investment advisors, analysts, or underwriters. We do not recommend any companies discussed. We may buy and sell securities in any company mentioned and may profit in the event those securities rise in value. We recommend you consult with a professional investment advisor, broker, or legal counsel before purchasing or selling any securities referenced in this podcast. Welcome to the Planet MicroCap Podcast. I'm your host, Robert Kraft, and thank you all so much for the support and for tuning in. You can follow Planet MicroCap on Twitter at Bobby K. Kraft. That's BOBBYKKRAFT. You're listening to episode 190. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to tweet at me or shoot me an email at rkraft@snnwire.com. And when you do get a chance, if you like what you hear, please rate and review Planet MicroCap on iTunes. It really helps provide feedback for me and spread the MicroCap message. I'd like to quickly thank you all for your participation in the SNN Network Summer Virtual Event 2021. We had an amazing turnout with engagement that far exceeded all expectations. All the keynotes, educational panels, and company presentations are now available on the SNN Network YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/SNNwire. So please feel free to subscribe and go and check out all the content there. And stay tuned for our next virtual event coming up very soon. Now, for this episode of the Planet MicroCap Podcast, I spoke with Tyler DuPont. He is the founder and chief everything officer at Augury Research. The title of this episode is Not Your Father's Stocks, as an ode to not only Tyler's podcast by the same name, but what inspired him to get into investing in the first place. There are many lessons we learn from our parents. And as a father now myself, I can only hope that my kids become far better people than I am one day. With that said, you will most certainly love how Tyler became obsessed with researching stocks and investing because, well, his father was so bad at it. Tyler is driven to be the best he possibly can be, and I'm thankful to his father for inspiring him to get after it the way he has and continues to with Augury Research. So thank you again for tuning in to episode 190 of the Planet MicroCap Podcast, and please enjoy my conversation with Tyler DuPont. Welcome back, everybody, to the Planet MicroCap Podcast. I'm your host, Robert Kraft. You can follow me on Twitter at Bobby K. Kraft. That's BOBBYKKRAFT. And I'm really excited for the gentleman joining me right now for an interview on this podcast. I got Tyler DuPont here, founder and CEO of Augury Research. And when I say CEO, I'm really it's chief everything officer at this stage. So Tyler, thank you so much for joining me today. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Oh, another day in paradise here in LA, but, mostly inside because I'm doing interviews nonstop. But other than that, it's totally cool.
You're not getting any surf?
You know what? This is going to sound really sad. So I surfed for the first time in like a month on Sunday, and I got outside. A little shout out to Caitlin Cook, our other podcast host here on the SNN Podcast Network. But I had an injury on my foot for the last month that it was a little bit of a mess. And so I got out there, but it was a sad display. Like if somebody was seeing me for the first time surf, they would be like, oh, of course, this is a surfer. Like,
yeah.
Oh, he's a big surfer. And it was a travesty, but I was out of shape.
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Yeah. I actually just went to California and I got a couple surfs in and I was like, I'm in Florida, right? And we don't have to wear wetsuits. And I'm like in my wetsuit, I'm like dying out of shape. I'm like, it was ugly.
Oh no, even when you're in a 3-2, which for everyone listening, that's like kind of the thinnest of the wetsuits out there. Even when you're in the 3-2, especially if you're not used to it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is much more of a workout than I thought it was going to be. I envy you get to surf in a bathing suit all the time. I love that.
And I envy you because you guys have waves all the time.
Wait, where do you normally surf in Florida?
I live in West Palm Beach area. So
okay.
We really only get waves during hurricane season. So.
Well, hey, look, some of the best surfers in the world, from Kelly Kelly Slater to Caroline Marks now are from Florida. Even though I just watched The Ultimate Surfer, I had to watch it. And of course, the first two surfers out were Floridians.
I actually went to school with Kayla Durden. She went to my college.
No way.
I went to, we were like, I know her. She's cool. So sad to see her go so early, but she'll be back.
She'll be back. She went up against the tough. I forgot who it was. It was who did she go up against? I can't remember. But anyways, hey, by the way, thanks for hitting me up for when you were in California. Listen, next time you're in LA, we're definitely going.
I wasn't in LA, but when I come to LA, I'm definitely gonna hit you up, and we gotta go, catch some waves and maybe a beer or two.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So I wanted to start off. Actually, you sent me this amazing journal, the new Augury Investing Journal, and I have to tell you, this, for everybody listening, this is one of the coolest journals I've seen out there. And we've on the podcast, we talk a lot about, it's really important to have an investing journal just to kind of keep track of your thoughts and ideas. But what's really cool that Tyler did here with this is that he actually did some of the work for you, where, you have, you're taking notes on, the time of the trade, your thought process behind that. It's like asking you the questions rather than you having to kind of create your own system of notation for your journaling or your investing journaling. And I got to give you kudos, man. I mean, my one last point on this is as soon as when you said you wanted to send me something, I'm like, all right, you want to send me some investing journal, cool, bro. All right, for sure. I'll check it out. And I got it. I got to tell you, I was really, really pleasantly surprised. It was so cool. And then I had this huge reaction, and then I showed it to my wife, who's not in finance at all, and she was like, "That is a great idea." So I don't know. I think you got some on your hands. So tell us, what was your thought process here?
Well, good. I'm glad your wife likes it. I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad I exceeded the expectations. Basically, the whole reason I kind of, designed that journal, one, I actually have, so I'm such a nerd when it comes to investing. I started when I was in 10th grade, and my first stock was Berkshire Hathaway. But my dad is the worst investor of all time. This guy lost all of his money in 2001. Then, he participated in the Florida real estate bubble in 2008, took a bath there. And then in 2013, it's my first year of college, and he calls me up with this great penny stock that he's, in. And I'm holding my Berkshire Hathaway shares, and it's not really doing too much. And he's telling me he's making all this money. And I'm like, dude, I'm not too smart, but I know you're not good at investing. So I ended up looking into this company, and it ended up being a total scam. And then that's kind of when I actually was okay, well, this is cool. I totally enjoyed that research process. So then I actually started building a system, and I was a college athlete, so I got free printing. And I kind of designed something similar to what you see in there. And I, basically just a research worksheet for me to fill out, to keep track of these companies. And I was researching a lot. I mean, probably 20 companies a week with this little system I designed. And then after a few years of doing that, I kind of leveled it up. And then eventually comes that journal. But the whole reason I actually made it into that journal format is because when I started my investing newsletter business, I realized that a lot of the investors were just first time, investors on Robinhood and stuff. And they didn't really have any clue what they were doing, which is understandable because I was kind of lucky.
So that means you started last year, or you started a couple years ago.
What was that?
Your newsletter.
Yeah, I started the newsletter. Officially, I incorporated Augury in 2018. 2019, I was great. I opened my newsletter up, and I got a bunch of customers, which was really cool. And everyone would think that was great, but I definitely did not have the right customer. And that's the one thing I've learned from starting a business is finding the right customer is really important and really valuable. So I had to deal with a really big headache of actually like, I had a bunch of people that just like wanted to be day traders and they like really didn't have any interest in like the fundamentals of a business and like that stuff. And like, to me, it's like, I kind of grade every, business is graded and it's based on, the value of the underlying asset. And then, I kind of like determine how likely is it that we can get the value out of that business. And these guys were more like trying to like, trade and stuff. And I was like, okay, this is cool. Like, people are paying me, but they're like not part of the program that like I want to build. Like, I wanted to build a strong community where like you go in there, you talk to with like other smart investors and you guys can actually like work together to find, the best opportunities for your portfolio. So in 2019, I kind of like had to rewrite the whole code of the business, like the whole culture basically. And then finally, like in 2020, it started to click. And now it's like 2021. And like, I love my investing group. Like, Sri is in my group. You had interviewed him. I got some really awesome people in there. And like, it's fun. Like we're like nerds in a sense. Like we're like trying to like find investments.
Not like nerds. You are nerds. And that's, we all are. And so we just, the sooner you embrace it, the better.
That's right. And that's what like makes you cool is like when you own your like nerdy stuff that you're into, it's just like, yeah, that guy's authentic. He's cool. He likes it. So it's like, yeah, we have a great group and it's like totally, we're finding like sweet stocks and, people are like, actually, I'm like really into, betting big. And like, I don't make a lot of portfolio moves, but when I do make one, like I really want to make it count. I'll bet, I kind of like, have like I got everything that I do is really like a system. I got like an allocation system that I use. It's like, a 6% position is like just a normal regular position. Then I got a double position, triple position. And it's like, if you're hitting a triple position, that better be a big winner for you, right? You want to bet the most on what, is the best opportunity. So that's kind of how I go about it. And I'm really like, I enjoy teaching people that aspect of investing, if you really want to hopefully maximize your wealth.
Very good. All right. We're going to get into all that in a second because there's a couple more backgroundy things I want to get to before we get to the full strategy and everything like that. And probably the most important question is like, okay, you knew your dad was a bad investor, so you must have shorted a couple of his ideas. Like, let's be real here.
Yeah. And you know what? It's like probably the biggest blessing was like the fact that my dad was so bad at investing. Like, I'm in second grade and my dad comes home and has to spill the beans that he lost all the family's money to my mom. And I'm sitting there and I'm just like, whoa, this does not sound good. Right. And my mom's like, well, what do you mean you lost all the money? And he's like, I don't know. I'm just listening to people at my office. I thought they were smart. Next thing you know is, he takes a bath. And, the saddest part about my dad's investing career is since 2010, he's been investing literally every paycheck in like US government bonds. So it's like, the dude is just like, bad on so many levels. Like he just can't buy a break. Like, we did the greatest bull market in history and he's just like US bonds. It's like, oh man. But he owns it and he's just like, I like that kind of caused me to, I got to figure this out for my dad. And trying to teach someone that is as bad as my dad, I've really had to break down my systems to the most, fundamental, base, simple level of like investing that I can explain to anybody. But yeah, and it was kind of insane is that I learned all these things from my dad about what not to do. And those were really valuable lessons. And when from 2013 to, even today, I do a lot of short selling where it's like everyone's out there trying to find, the next Amazon, Apple, whatever it is. And I'm just out here trying to find like, what are the 10 worst businesses that I can absolutely find? What has no chance to make it? And can I, find a way to, make money on the short side? And, on the reverse of that, with that strategy, I've come across some like, okay, I don't want to sound like a clown, but like GameStop at $3.89 a share. The market cap is like $165 million. The company's buying back like $60 million worth of stock like every quarter. They literally have a ton of cash on the balance sheet. They have like $5.5 billion in sales. I mean, at like a 30% gross margin. Like those are like little things that, wake me up as an investor. You're paying a really small price for a lot of cash coming into the business. Can they figure out a way to, and they're not investing into opening new stores and stuff because they know that they're kind of going out of style, right? But, they're still somehow doing, big money in sales and stuff like that. So that was one. I found this company, Tandem Diabetes. This is actually how I started Augury and I have no position in either one of those stocks, but I've, since sold. Tandem Diabetes was this, insulin pump company that everyone, kind of wrote off as, being a zero, and it was trading at like $40 million. And the company's top line was growing like crazy. I did a little bit of research on it. And then I, was like, this is such a good idea that I got to like actually open up my mouth instead of like keeping everything to myself. Because I had at this point in time, this is 2018. I had researched hundreds of stocks at this point. And then, but I was like not on Twitter talking. I wasn't doing anything. And then Tandem came along and I was like, I called up two of my best friends and I was like, hey, you guys should totally like invest in this company, check it out. Here's what I'm thinking. And then I wrote a Seeking Alpha article and, the stock went from 3 to like 110 or something it trades at today. So I got a lot of followers from that. And then once I had a little bit of momentum on Seeking Alpha, then I put out a short report on this like Chinese, pig company that was a complete fraud. And then it got voted like article of the month, or was like runner up article of the month. And then from there, had taken a break. I was actually installing water heaters for my ex-girlfriend's dad's company for work. And I'm like getting all of these messages from people that are like, hey man, love your work, made $500,000 on your Tandem pick. Like, when's the next one coming? I'm like waiting, doing nothing. And then I was like, sun's beating down on you in Florida. You're like, shoes are filled with water after installing a water heater. And I like look at my phone and I see that. And I'm just like, I got to change my career. And then that's like when Augury was born. And I like, tried to figure it all. I mean, I'm still figuring everything out, but like, yeah, that was, I had a customer. I had a product that I could offer because I kind of know how to research these businesses. And it just kind of, it was a really easy decision when I, scaling up me just installing water heaters. I was just really the guy that hands the tools around too. I was like, you know what? This is an obvious decision. I got to pivot and I got to do something new. And that's when I did that. And then I hopped on Instagram, started posting my portfolio on there, got a bunch of followers. That's when I realized, okay, I need a product outside of like, I got the newsletter business rolling at that point, but I wanted to give my customers, something more, like something that they can do on their own as well, and like understand exactly what the process is. So, don't get me wrong, I want these guys to stay with me forever, but like I also want them to be able to be, self-sufficient and, have a process of their own and get an idea as to how to play the game for themselves. Because, if the goal is financial freedom, like you got to be able to think for yourself. And that was kind of like the whole goal with the journal, is like get these guys kind of thinking the right way and then see what they can do. Because fact of the matter is like, I could be better than my dad and someone else can be way better than me, and, see what you can do, because everyone plays with a little bit different style and a little bit different flavor. And it's like, see what you can do, because this is a game that has, as Buffett has showed us, is unlimited scale.
Not just that, but you're continuously evolving, right? Wait, so I got to ask. So one last question on you and your dad's relationship, because I'm loving this very much. I'm very close with my dad too, so we go back and forth like this. Has he bought any of your ideas yet, or is he still reluctant?
No, I finally just recently talked him into, stepping out of maybe some bonds and let's actually get our feet wet in some real businesses. And I'm pretty patient. I have 7, positions in my portfolio. I swear, I don't buy much. I like to look at everything. I'm a great shopper. I will research businesses all day. But for me to actually buy something, it's got to be really fit my criteria, which is I like these pretty boring businesses, nothing too flashy. And I want these businesses just to drown me in cash, to be honest. If I'm not going to be drowned in cash, I'll just wait on the sideline. And, I run my portfolio with a lot of, a pretty large cash position almost always. Now I do short sell stuff, and I wake up every morning at 5 a.m. I'm at my desk at 5:30. I want to see what's moving. And is there anything that is just totally mind blowing? And if so, I get I got these sheets. I fill these things out, everything I need to know. I could probably get one of these things done in 30 minutes, and I'm ready to, trade it. And like the other day, I found this business trading at $120 million, no revenue, not a good idea. There's just, corporate history of running pump and dumps. And I'm just I'm licking my lips. I just know that this is actually going to be, I don't want, maybe not a home run, but it's definitely going to be at least a double or something for me where I can actually make some real money on it. But yeah, so I'm pretty patient. And that kind of system of waiting around works pretty good.
Well, let's dig into that system a little bit. Tell us. So this is our bread and butter right now. So this is your chance to show. Let's go. So tell us a little bit about your strategy. What about your strategy makes it so that you're that patient of an investor? What are you looking for? Go through the whole thing.
I just want, I'm kind of big into. So a little bit of background about me, and I kind of apply my athletic career to investing, right? I went to college. I was a walk-on on, a Division I baseball team though. I was I'm going D1. That's what I want to do. If I don't go D1, I'm not going to play. And I somehow squeaked a walk-on position at University of North Florida. And then when I got there, I realized that holy smokes, these kids are no joke. These are men. I'm 5'9", little lefty. I'm the smallest kid on the team. Everyone else is 6'4", and I'm really competitive. And I'm if I want to play, I got to find a way to get on the field, and I got to work hard, whatever. Hard work is, I think, you have to have it if you're trying to do anything really in life. But I throw really slow, and I, instead of everyone else is trying to throw hard, and I just is you know what, I'm just going to throw slow and I'm going to get everyone out. And that system worked really well. It was very different from everyone else. And the system of, everyone else is looking for the next Amazon, Apple. I'm looking for the worst possible business. That is, almost contrarian in itself. And, really, if you're going to be contrarian, you got to, not only do you have to be different, but the most important thing is you can't just be different. You have to be different, but also be right. And so every day when I wake up, I'm looking for, games that I can play against people that I can beat. And Charlie Munger's one of my favorite quotes of his is, thank God for the stupid people. They make us rich. And I hate to say it, but a lot of the people that I'm playing against have absolutely no clue about what they're buying. So when I get my homework done, and I'm pretty good at it at this point in my career, I know exactly what I'm buying. I know exactly, you don't know the exact, value of an asset, but you have got a pretty good idea, where this thing belongs. And if I find something that's just so outrageous, then I lace up my sneakers, put on my helmet, and it's time to actually play and trade around a little bit. So I take it really serious in that sense. It's like, you got to wear the hat of, the investor, and then also wear the hat of the trader. And then, think like another thing I always do that I enjoy is, when you're researching a business, this is the game of money. Like, this is just business is all about money. And this is why I like it so much. It's like, sit down, look at your balance sheet, look at your income statement, look at your product. You're the CEO. Can you win with these things? If the answer is no, people shouldn't be buying that. And if I can sell it, let's say at $120 million, and I know that it's worth a lot less than that, like no one in their right mind would pay that if they, understood the game of business. Well, like that's a good opportunity for me. And I will, if the stars align the right way, like I will, unload on it if I can. I'll try to sell, as much stock as I possibly can, and, try to, get rich. This is the game. It's like people love video games. Like I don't play video games. I play stocks. Like looking at the balance sheet, income statement, cash flow statement. That's like looking at the back of baseball cards for me. I can sit here and do it all day long. Don't check on me. I'm just sitting at my office, just looking at different stuff, different players. Who can I add to my portfolio? Who can I trade away? Like that is, I feel like investing. And I'm like, I use baseball a lot because it's a game I know really well. But like, it's like, Billy Bean in the movie Moneyball. It's like he's looking for these weird players that throw funny or, can't throw, and he's finding value in them. It's like, to me, that's like value investing. And he's good at it, and he puts together a good team. He's trading these players away. He's like, making money moves, and like, that job is like my ultimate goal in life. If I could do that, like I totally would. But in the meantime, let me try to get rich, I guess, doing stocks.
Listen, man, I got to tell you, that was a great analogy right there. Also, I think we're becoming best friends pretty quickly between your surfing and now I play baseball too. I was recruited to play at UCSD. So like,
oh,
nice. This is kinship right here. But I mean, that's a great place to start. So you're looking where people. Look, we talk a lot about contrarianism on here, right? But what's interesting about your strategy is that you're not just looking for, on the contrarian side where, looking at things to buy that people might otherwise hate, but you're looking at things that people love for some reason or another, and looking for maybe some reason to short it. Is short selling kind of your main strategy, you would say, or yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, short selling is like, I honestly want to try to be the best short seller of all time. Like,
why?
Not that like,
that's so interesting. Why?
I'm not going to be like Jim Chanos. Like that guy's mega smart. I love him to death, but like, I could never do what he does in like those big companies. Mm-hmm. But like these small companies, you play with so many people that have no clue what they're doing, that you actually have a lot more edge than you think. And it's like, finding edge is interesting because there's a couple ways I think that you can find it. And there's a couple ways that I think I can find it. Is one, it's like, I was listening to actually this podcast. Someone came in and said that, it's like everyone thinks that penny stocks are, all scams, right? Well, if everyone thinks that all penny stocks are scams, and you can find, but in reality, it's only like 9 out of 10 are scams, and you can find that one that's not a scam, that's like, legit, and everyone else is like ignoring it. Well, that's edge, right? There's a low competitive field because everyone's just writing it off. And that's kind of like, short selling is like, everyone says don't short sell because, stock can go to infinity, which obviously it can't because there's not like infinite money in the world. But like, yeah, okay, you can definitely get burned if you're really stubborn. Like, I'm not stubborn. I like, if I'm wrong, I just like, click a couple buttons, I'm out. It's easy. It's like, that's possible. You people like don't want to think you could do that, but I swear to God, you can. I've done it a million times. So that's like where I go, okay, well, this is a good place for me to look for edge because no one wants to play here. And like another thing that I do that people think is insane is that I wake up at 5:30 and I'm not, I'm not waking up to, I don't know, pet my dog. I'm waking up and if I see something crazy, I start selling it pre-market and I'll sell it all morning long. I sell.
So tell me what you look for then. You want to be, as you just said, you want to be the best short seller in the world, which, hey, we need the big hairy idea. What is it? The big hairy goal. Sorry, Ben Clareman he just said that. I'm totally misquoting him. But basically, we all have that huge ambition that we want to be. So I'm just genuinely curious because, most folks that come on here say they want to be the best investor they can be, which I'm assuming is probably the case for you. But you're going a step further and say, I want to be the best short seller ever. So one, why? and then secondly, and I don't say that judgmentally, okay? Like everybody has their own way. There's so many different ways to play this game. Obviously, you listen to this show enough to know that most people I bring on here tend to be on the long side, maybe never done a short sell in their life. I know I haven't. So I'm just so curious, like why is that what you want to be? And then, you say you wake up at 5:30, what are those crazy things or some of that criteria that you look for before you then want to go and do some of those trades?
Yeah. So like, I want to, pitch to my dad, right? Like my dad is good at losing money. If I have him in the batter's box, I can get him out. And what is my dad, right? Like my dad is good at his job, right? And he's the hardest working guy in the world, but like he, was making investments that he had no clue about the fundamentals of the business. It's so easy to figure out who you're playing against in today's world. I head right over to Twitter, head right over to StockTwits. Do these guys have any clue what they're talking about, or are they morons, right? If I'm playing against absolute morons, and I'm not too smart myself, so I like my odds there, and on my system here, it's like it's the Augury scouting report. This is what I call it, and I look at exactly who I'm playing with. I want to know who owns the shares. So I look at all the big shareholders. Are there any institutions involved? I look at StockTwits. I used to look at the Robin track thing, the Robin Hood, Seeking Alpha. I go on Seeking Alpha. Do you know how many, there's people think that you write for Seeking Alpha and it's like, oh my gosh, this guy knows what he's talking about. Like there are a lot of people that write on there that are absolutely clueless. And I read all their stuff and I go, this guy's looking at all the wrong things. I, totally disagree with him. I can beat this guy. And if he's long the stock and it gets, wiped out, or he's long for the wrong reasons, or he doesn't see this. And it's just a lot of people just don't do, I don't think they do like the research required. So I try to find people that, are silly and they're not thinking clearly, and maybe they're really biased in the stock. Like, and don't get me wrong, I've grown a lot, but I tried shorting Tesla, right? I went back and I, shorted the Elon Musk tweet when he said a buyout at 420. I was like, okay, well, it's trading at 388, buyouts at 420. I'll risk that. I think the downside is, $50 a share. No, it can actually go to $50 a share. Not like the reward was huge. And if I stop out at 420 and he's right, okay, big deal. So I was like, this is a good time for me to enter the trade. And then I started really digging, like, researching too much into Tesla. I was biased, right? I was like, starting to think that things mattered that really didn't, like, and that taught me so much, because Tesla after that went all the way down to like 280 or something like that. And I had like a pretty large short position on like 12%, and I had some put options. Thankfully those hit, but then, the stock went to 420 and I didn't cover. I went to 425 and I covered. And I remember, I'm really disciplined in my short selling. Like, I think discipline is by far the most important thing. So like, when I plan my bet, I value every bet. And I think that's what value investing is. I don't think it's like, we can all value a business and say it's worth $100 million, but how likely is it that value gets unlocked? That value that you get from measuring your bet is what we actually need to be doing. And that's, how you find out what your edge is. And then once you determine what your edge is, then you can actually figure out how much you should be allocating to the idea. So when I took that $5 extra on Tesla, I was really, upset with myself because it was a breach of my discipline. And I just know that's not the system that I use to actually make money. Like, look, my system works because I am so disciplined. If my stop out is, at whatever price, that means I get out at that price. There's no negotiating with that. I was wrong on the bet, and I should be trading in a sense where it's like, I can be wrong maybe 1, 2, 3 times and still be, alive, right? When we're playing baseball, like if you hit 330, you're pretty darn good and you're getting out, 67% of the time. So my short selling is very similar to that, where it's like, I'm allowed to make out. I get out all the time. And, I have a thing where it's like, I'm good. I don't like get into these slumps or anything like that because there's always a new trade around the corner. There's always a new at bat, later in the game or tomorrow's game. It's like my career is not ending with any one of these trades. And as good of a setup may be, nothing is good enough, to get hurt. So I'm like, there's a point where it's like, I'm just here to make money. It's like, it's not about win or lose. It's just how much money you make when you're right and how much money you lose when you're wrong. And I don't really get, married to any stocks. I don't get married to any ideas. I'm very, if I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You really can't hit me. It's like I'm trying to be Floyd Mayweather.
Just on defense all the time. So I want to learn about some of your other criteria that you have on there. You pulled out your sheet and you had a couple things on the checklist there. I mean, what else do you look for? Especially, in smaller stocks, I'm sure there's a bit more too.
I really love really bad balance sheets. There's nothing more beautiful than a terrible balance sheet when I'm doing this. And it's the opposite for my long investing. It's like all my short stuff is like, I love beautiful balance sheets for something I'm going long. And it's very important to me. If the balance sheet is even iffy, I'll stand way back. Tandem was kind of an exception. The balance sheet was terrible, and that's why I was on it. It's a terrible balance sheet company, but then they got this big investment from Dexcom, and I recognize, this is like a very pivotal moment. This changes everything completely. I need to pay attention to this and I need to act on it. And so I always look for short selling, bad balance sheets, or thank you, I love that. How else if the company's got a terrible product, they got no cash on the balance sheet, they're burning cash, by operating. Well, how are they going to make money? How are they going to continue? Well, they have to sell stock. What happens when you increase the supply of stock? Well, the stock has to go down. And everyone's like, well, you can't time the market. Well, I'm not too smart, but if me and you own the business and we're running the business and we got no cash in the bank and our product sucks and our balance sheet sucks and we don't want to lose our jobs, so what are we going to do? Well, we're going to figure out a way to raise some capital. If the banks don't want to lend us any money, well, let's tap into the shareholders. And that creates overhead supply. If they can't increase the demand, which if no one wants to buy a terrible business, well, the stock is going to go down. So that's, how I approach, that aspect of things. I really care about the product. Like I said, every company I research, I put the CEO hat on and I go, okay, do I want this job? Right. And I really only want to sit down at desk behind companies that literally are going to run themselves, or I can't mess anything up because I'm not that smart. Right. Or it's like, well, if I'm an idiot and I can run this business, that means anybody behind, the desk can run it. And that's something I want to be long because the product's probably pretty good. It's got, high gross margin, these things that make a good business good. That's what we want to put our money into, something that's hard for things to go wrong. And then the reverse where it's like, man, it's like, if I'm the CEO and it's like product sucks, balance sheet has no cash, we got no good assets. It's like, dude, you couldn't pay me enough money to fail at that job. Of course I don't want it. I gotta go look for another one. So that's what I short sell in a sense.
Well,
What else do I look for?
Yeah, tell me what else you look
for. Bad hitters. If I'm pitching, I want the worst possible hitter. It's like, what I also, in a sense, look for is like, I don't want to get into the ring with Mike Tyson, right? I don't want to walk onto the basketball court with LeBron James. Now, if you want to give those guys a golf club, I will play that game. But if you're going to, ask me to go onto the basketball court with LeBron or boxing ring with Tyson, you would never, ever find me. So I only want to play games that I, have a clear chance of winning. And sometimes, you go a long time without finding anything good. And another thing too is like this morning I found this company. It's got $300 million market cap. It's actually down quite a bit now. It's a $280 million market cap. But I was, selling stock all morning. And then I'm like, you know what? Like, I might be early. I got to punt here. And I'm seeing it like go down and it looks like it's about to actually like fall through the roof. And I'm like, I missed it, but it's not a big deal. Like, cause I didn't get hurt. I literally lost $37 on the trade as like literally commission. Like that's nothing. So am I, even upset? No, but if that was not like an A+ opportunity, that was just like a C opportunity. And if it is an A+ opportunity, I have this idea, I call it game 4 mentality, where it's like, when I know I got something good, I won't be able to sleep the night before. Like if I know something I can make a lot of money, I literally can't sleep. And it's like game 4 mentality. It's like when I was in college and I was a Saturday guy, before my starts, I couldn't sleep. Like I'd, be thinking about the game all night long. And it's like, for short selling, I'm very particular. Like I know exactly at what time of the day I'm going to be shorting stuff. I know everything. I know exactly what price I want to get in or better at. I'm very organized in that sense. And it's like game 4 mentality is, okay, it's game 4 of the World Series. We can win a championship ring today. I will give it, everything we got. But no matter what happens in game 4, if we're up, 3-0 in the series and we lose game 4, it's not the end of the world. It's not game 7. Game 7, you have to put it all on the line. Game 4, it's like, yeah, you're putting it all on the line. But if you do lose that game, it's not over. You got the next day and you got the next day. And it's like, for short selling, that's really important because I've seen people kind of fight stocks before. And it's like, dude, that's how you lose. That's how you blow out, and that's how you tear your ACL is doing something silly that you try to do too much. People try to do too much, and it's like you got to play within your game.
Tyler, what if you're down 0-3?
What if I'm down 0-3?
Yeah, then what?
Got a lot of work to do. I'm waiting. I might need to call up. I might need to call up Chanos to get in the box and hit a 27-run home run for me.
That's good stuff. And so where do you source ideas? Is the stuff that you just came across over the last few days and then you follow up on the next thing? Like how do you find new ideas?
Okay, well, I have a secret weapon, right? The guy Andy, he's my secret weapon. I love him because he's like got these really great ideas, but I also am very focused on, I think idea generation is the most important thing in investing. Like, I mean, maybe not the most important, like allocation is the most important, but like, coming up with your own ideas, the idea generation aspect of investing is so important. And I honestly like to do it all myself. Like my secret weapon comes with tons of good ideas, but like, I'm very picky even with his ideas, even though they're mostly like all pretty good, where I look at it and I'm like, wow, man, like, how do you find in these? And like, they're good, but I'm like very picky what I put in my portfolio. And, I think everyone's got to be different because my, emotional risk tolerance is much different than yours. And yours is much different than maybe Maj's, right? We all are different. And, I really have pushed my boundaries as to what I know I can do and what I can't do. So I have a pretty good idea as to what does belong in my portfolio and what doesn't. And that's something that comes with experience, in my personal opinion. Like, I can't just hand you a bottle of, hey, you can, here's Tyler's emotional risk, you can use it too. Everyone has to actually learn that part of the game for themselves. And it takes time, but I think if you journal a lot, that's why I literally I use this journal on like all my trades. I mean, I would go through this journal so fast, so I print the sheets out, but it is part of my system where I go back and I reflect in it. Like the stock that I'm looking at fall apart right now, I literally wrote on there like, I literally wrote, I don't want to punt, but I know I should punt right here. And I punted, and whatever, if it falls apart, there'll always be another trade around the corner. And I'm, pretty good at staying patient. It's like, you don't have to be too active, to be honest. Like, you can be really, really patient, and you can see how things play out, and you never know. Sometimes I could wake up tomorrow and this stock can gap up 15%, and this could be a perfect entry, where this was, instead of it being like a C plus setup, this is actually now like a B setup. And I could, instead of trading, I don't know, a smaller position, I'll get a little bit more size and maybe make just as much money, if not more. So it's like, you never know what the market is going to throw you. It's just more so, I'm very focused on like, show up every day prepared. It's like, sometimes people would be like, how do you like find ideas? And it's like, I got 10 stocks on my desk that are like probably good enough to trade. And then when it's time to trade, I pick the best one and I focus intently on that one, and I win that battle. Because another way to kind of look at it too is like that, investing is almost like war, and every dollar that you have is almost like a soldier. You don't want to just go burn your soldiers in battle and like without a plan and stuff like that. You want to put these guys in position to win. So, I put together a plan of action on all of my trades. And when I wake up in the morning, I see how they all set up. And if it triggers something that I like, that I think, okay, well, maybe I don't want to like short this at $75 million, but at $125 million, yeah, that is a lot more appealing to me. So that's kind of how I, like, a second level go into my, what's actually going on my desk is like, I literally just have a bunch of these sheets laying around, and I'm like, okay, wait, which one should I play with today?
All right. So Tyler, I'm getting to the point in the interview where, this is my favorite question that I get to ask everybody. And you've told a couple stories on this front about things that have impacted your investing career and how it basically have shaped you as an investor. But what would you say is the number one thing or number one investing experience that really shaped your career?
Yeah. Okay. So this is a two-part question, or a two-part answer, where in 2018, I had a really great year, but the number one takeaway that will forever, shape my career is, I said I was installing water heaters, and I had already known that I needed to start actually, I didn't want to do that forever. I needed to start, doing something else. So I decided, okay, I'm going to be highly selective. I'm going to pick, an idea out that I know well, and I'm going to bet big on it. And that happened to be this company, Elfin. It was a total fraud. It was like, a layup. And I designed this options trade, and I bet big. I bet 30% of my portfolio on this trade that would double my money. And, I ended up hitting the trade. It was an absolute headache. And I had to pass a competency test for the options to get options trading available on my account. And when I was reading that, I am like such a nerd. I read the options, like the CBOE options rule book or whatever. I read the whole thing, and I discovered that there was a little bit of a loophole in the trade that I designed, that there was a chance that I could lose all of my money. And that was if the stock got halted by the SEC, and the halt lasted through the duration of my trade, my expiration date. Sure enough, this stock gets halted by the SEC. My options, I'm still in the position, And now I have to make the decision if I'm going to exercise them, but then you have to pay the borrow rate or just lose, 30% of my portfolio, right? So this was a big deal to me. At that time, I was like totally stressed out. I was, oh my gosh, I wanted to win this trade really bad, but I also like just didn't want to lose the money. So, and I bet big, and ultimately it ended up paying off because the stock, opened up for trading before my expiration date, and the SEC hold got lifted and opened up at like $5 a share, and I made a bunch of money. It was awesome, ended up working great, but I did get a test of what I can withstand emotionally, and that's the one takeaway that I think everyone needs to learn. I was really lucky in the way that I learned, what was the envelope of what I can handle. And I will forever cherish that lesson. But the second part of that equation was, if I had any clue what I was doing, I would have bet the same size on the tandem trade, slept easy forever, and made, a million times, more in terms of absolute return. So it was a really good learning experience as I, figured out what I can handle emotionally, but also like I was so focused on like being the best short seller, right? Like that's kind of been my goal. Like I really want to be, it's like, some kids want to be the best 3-point shooter. Some kids want to be the best pitcher. Like I want to be the best short seller. And I was so consumed in that goal that I like kind of took my focus away as to what is this game? And, I will always appreciate 2018. It was an incredible year for me, but, there were so many great takeaways and so much learned in that year. And it's like, thank God I learned it, right out of college, because those are things that I don't think people, get the opportunity to learn at such a young age. And hopefully that will, be something that I never forget. I don't think I will.
Very cool. All right. So Tyler, we're rounding the bend here. My final question for you is, what advice do you have for newbies that might be considering looking at Augury or just maybe looking at short selling, or just any of the strategies that you put out there, or just in general looking at investing?
Yeah, totally. And I honestly think, get a trading journal. I get preferably my trading journal, but get your hands on a trading journal. I know for me, it's like, I can't even describe how much I've learned about, investing, about business, just by going through all of these companies and keeping a journal on them. And if you do that and you aren't afraid to, step in the batter's box after you get hit by a pitch, I truly believe that anybody can play this game and play it pretty well. I think, kind of learn the rules of it, understand that this is a reward to risk game. It is a gambling game. You're wagering. There are votes of expression as to what you think is going to happen in the future. But, if you journal your thoughts and you reflect on them and you play by the rules, I think the sky is ultimately the limit for anybody. And it doesn't matter if you have a business degree from Harvard or whatnot. Like anybody can really play this game, which is, my favorite part about it, because I'm not that smart, but I can somehow play it and do it well, just because I've kind of just put in the time and I've thought about it enough on how I'm going to approach it, that, I can play it and, play my game well. I can't play, I definitely can't. I've listened to a lot of the strategies on here, and it's like some of these guys are doing things that I can't do, like going through these bankrupt companies and figuring them out. I'm like, dude, I'm not that smart. So I stay away from that stuff. Right. So, make a trading journal. And when opportunity does come, jump on it, go for it, because that's really the only thing, that's the only really way you're going to change your life, is bet big when you get these great opportunities and, ignore the mediocre stuff.
Very good. All right, man. With that, where can our audience go and find more information on you, follow you on social media, the whole bit?
So you can find us on our website at auguryresearch.com. We are on Twitter at Augury Investing. We are on Instagram, Augury Investing. Pinterest, Amazon. I'm on every social media, LinkedIn, YouTube. I have it all. I have a podcast. The podcast is Not Your Father's Stocks. It's not as consistent as this one, but we got a couple of episodes with me and my partner, Andy. So if you're looking to find us, I would just say auguryresearch.com, and all the links should be somewhere on that site.
Well, Tyler, this is an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining me here on Planet MicroCap. And I'm really excited to continue to follow you along on your journey. And I'm sure we'll have you back at some point soon. Thanks for having me. I'm waiting to get pitted like that, like you in the photo behind you. I'm coming out for that. I'm trying. I'm looking for the next one. Have a good one, man. All right. Thanks again.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not an offer or solicitation of an offer to buy or sell securities. SNN Network, SNN Inc., and the Planet MicroCap Podcast and the representatives are not licensed brokers, broker-dealers, market makers, investment bankers, investment advisors, analysts, or underwriters. We do not recommend any companies discussed. We may buy and sell securities in any company mentioned and may profit in the event those securities rise in value. We recommend you consult with a professional investment advisor, broker, or legal counsel before purchasing or selling any securities referenced in this podcast.